morning to you. It is the Nikki Medoro show without Nikki Medoro. I'm Kim McAllister. Nikki at her second job in San Francisco today. Sometimes you just gotta work to make the money, and that's the way it goes. So Nikki should be back on Monday, but I'm gonna hold down the fort, and I'm actually really excited. I have some great guests lined up for the show today. Gil Gross is going to be talking Trump with us in just a moment. I have Chris Merrill, formerly of KGO, coming in as well. The recent discussion we had over book club kind of went over really well. So I'm having Lara Starr, a former producer at KGO, who's an avid reader, pop in to talk about her favorite book recommendations for you. And then, of course, we'll follow it up with the best things at the box office this weekend with Tim Sika. So thank you for being here on this Friday on the Nikki Medoro Show. I know Mark Thompson says there's no such thing as earthquake weather, but it's muggy, it's been a little warm, and I'm not buying what he's selling because we had an earthquake this morning here in the Bay Area. This one centered near Healdsburg, 7:15 this morning. It was a magnitude 3.9. So, and I guess they had a 2.8 hit near Healdsburg as well. That was last night. So I think there's something to earthquake weather, even though I know science says I'm wrong. It's one of those things where science and I disagree. I don't know. Let's talk Trump. Let's talk the mugshot, because this is an historic moment. Never before, we've never seen anything like this. Never before have we seen a former president with a mugshot. And we knew it was coming. That you can make the argument, why did we need this, right? Why? There's no reason. We all know what he looks like. There's really, you can make the argument we didn't have to have this. There he is. But we did have it. We do have it. He has this kind of stony look on his face. I wonder how long he spent in the mirror perfecting this look with the eyebrows raised and the steely gaze and kind of the pursed lips. I want to talk to Gil Gross about what this means. Is it just a mugshot, or is it kind of a symbol of something else? And why we're so interested in the photos of these people that are charged with, I'll say it, attempting a coup in America. So I want to bring in one of my favorite. It is Gil Gross joining the program. Let me get Trump away and let me get Gil Gross in. Gil Gross, welcome to the Nikki Medoro Show.
Hey, thank you, Kim.
Gil Gross, of course, an award-winning journalist, a talk show host, now turned actor, I understand.
Partly, yes. Still do.
Yes.
Still do journalism and news. Just finished a Labor Day special for CBS News Radio. And,
so good.
Yeah, and we produce a lot of podcasts that I do mainly the writing for rather than being on the air. So, still doing this nonsense.
That must be weird, not being on the air. Like,
It's great.
Who looks at you and doesn't go, that's the talent, get that guy on.
It's great. I mean, I've been doing this more than half a century.
Yeah.
There comes a time where you go, enough's enough.
Right.
It's just enough's enough.
I have nothing to prove anymore. I'll just do what I got to do.
Yeah, and the acting has been tremendously fun. Learning, a new thing, especially Shakespeare, which is what I've been specializing in, and so it's good. Life's good. So you want to talk about mugshots, and as soon as you thought of mugshots, you thought of me, right?
No.
Thank you.
As soon as I think politics, I think you. That's why I called you. But I did have a presentation that I wanted to show you. This was aired on, I think, Newsmax, and it's really talking about how Trump doesn't get exactly what's going on here. That, he seems to think this is all in fun. As a matter of fact, he posted his own mugshot on Twitter this morning. So let's take a look at this, and then I'd love to get your comments.
Terrible experience. I came in, I was treated very nicely, but it is what it is. I took a mugshot, which I never heard the words mugshot. Didn't teach me that at the Wharton School of Finance.
I just don't think he gets it. Look, Rice Street is a jail that is awful.
No
right?
question.
People are dying there because the conditions are so absolutely deplorable. So the fact that he basically got this great treatment, he comes in 20 minutes in and out, right? Done and done. And somehow that was awful and bad, when the reality is people that get booked every day there and that have their mugshots taken and that actually have to be in jail there, this is very, very serious. And so, for all of these people doing these MAGA mugshots, for whatever reason they're doing it, they just have no understand what this really stands for. I mean, this is not good, right? He is in significant legal trouble. And so whether he thinks this is more of a political thing that he needs to massage or not, as a lawyer, he needs to stand down and really focus on his defense, because he is facing serious allegations that could end him up with serious time in prison. And that mugshot's not going to really mean anything at the end of the day if he's locked up.
Because you know Georgia so well, if Trump is convicted on these charges in state court, if it doesn't get removed to federal, would he go to that jail first?
Yeah.
That one that
yes.
he was in last
he would be held there until they send him to whatever prison he is then assigned to, if he got jail time.
Okay, so
yeah.
That's
I
where
love the way
goes.
he's still saying Wharton School of Finance like he went to a famous grad school, which he did not.
It doesn't matter where he went. It's all about what he says, right? It's the lie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
an undergrad after he transferred from Fordham, basically a Penn student, but he makes it sound like he went to the, Wharton's famed graduate school, which he did not.
Yeah, I just, the lies that come out of his face and the perception, it's like nobody cares, Gil. Nobody cares what's true about him and what isn't true. And
people totally don't care. It is a cult of personality, much like the flying saucer cult here in California, or other such things, or Jim Jones. If you want to go for another famous California horror show, or what Synanon became after a good start as a truly good program to get people off drugs, and then itself became a cult, putting snakes in people's mailboxes and things like that. That's what it is, and truth just absolutely doesn't matter.
I was reading this op-ed piece on CNN. So obviously biased, right? And it's an opinion piece. And they're talking about, for any other politician, a mugshot like this would be a career ender, right? This would be game over. If you were a political candidate, think of what happened to Gary Hart, right? Any appearance of impropriety, you're out on your rear end. You're not running for president. But for Donald Trump, it's not. For Donald Trump, this is a springboard. He takes it, and for however magic sparkle dust comes down, and he turns it into something to use as a positive. But we just heard this attorney say, this is serious business. He's not taking it seriously.
He's not taking it seriously because he truly believes he's going to win the election in 2024. That's the first thing. And he believes then he will pardon himself for everything. Now, of course, he can't pardon himself for Georgia. Those are state charges, which is why his attorneys and others are trying to get that case moved to federal court, because they want it moved to a court where they're more likely to get a Trump-picked judge, A, but B, where even if they're found guilty, Trump can just pardon them all. And in fact, the other candidates in the Republican Party, if through some miracle they were to become the Republican nominees, I don't think there's any doubt that DeSantis or Ramaswamy, most of those candidates, certainly not Christie, but he's got no chance, would pardon them. So I think they're putting all their eggs in that basket. Now, Trump has another out. Trump, whose son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has done billions of dollars in business with Saudi Arabia, makes whatever Hunter Biden did, doesn't excuse it, but makes it look like extremely small potatoes, especially since Jared, unlike Hunter, actually had a White House job, was on the White House staff. But Jared has a $3 billion fund, investment fund, $2 billion of which came from the Saudis, and all but 1% of which, the rest of the money, that other $1 billion, came from other Middle East nations that he was doing diplomatic work with. So I think that Trump is thinking, A, he'll either win and pardon himself, or B, there'll be a plane that'll go out to Saudi Arabia, take him and the kids, and they'll be running everything out of there. So I think he sees no down in this. Whereas, of course, for the followers, Rudy Giuliani is probably not going to get a mansion in Riyadh.
No, he isn't. I wonder if that's failure in Trump's eyes, though. If he
Yes.
ends up fleeing, which
Yeah.
I don't know how he could because he's surrounded by Secret Service, and aren't they sworn to uphold the law like a law enforcement officer? I mean, I don't know how you have a security detail and end up getting away. But if he ends up fleeing, wouldn't that be embarrassing? Like you had to run with your tail between your legs?
First of all, if he's not president, he can dismiss the Secret Service. He can say, you know what, I'm not going to take that anymore. I'd rather use private security. There's no law that he has to use the Secret Service when he's out of office. So he can dispense with that if he wants. And that takes care of that problem. For the other people, it's a problem that people have always had with Trump. He doesn't pay his bills. He doesn't pay his lawyers. I know one guy I talked to, but if you love him, you love him. I know one guy Trump completely stiffed on the bills from Atlantic City when he helped build Trump's casino there. The guy lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this was not a rich man. He voted for Trump because it's like, I know this big celebrity, and I know this guy, and this is a land of celebrity, and I know this guy who became president, and he was still going to support him, even though he got totally stiffed. You cannot look at Trump. I mean, look at Giuliani, what they did. They gave some money from the super PAC to cover some bills, but they're not paying his legal bills. What Trump did agree to do after Andrew Giuliani, who has a closer relationship at this point with Trump than his father does, Andrew said, look, would you then do a couple of dinners, show up at a couple of dinners? You don't have to give any money. Just be like, the MC, or show up, make 5 minutes of address, so people pay the $500 a plate or whatever and leave. And Trump said, that I'll do.
It's a lot more than that. I have the invitation.
Yes.
Here it is. This is $100,000 per guest at a dinner at Bedminster, the golf course and club in New Jersey that Trump has. It's an evening in support of America's mayor. You too can cough up $100,000 on September 7th to go hang out with Rudy and Donald and pay legal bills.
Yeah. You can, and you can even do a drinking game. Every time Giuliani lifts a glass, you can lift a glass, and hopefully have somebody to drive you home. It's amazing, and this is again a kind of cult-like thing where somebody's lying to you, and you still like him, and you cannot dismiss the idea. People are saying, well, old-fashioned conservatives, I don't know how many of those are left, don't like Trump and they won't vote for him. Well, even Bill Barr, who thinks he's a crook, said he's going to vote for him. I mean, everybody but Christie and Asa Hutchinson raised their hands at the debate saying, no matter what I think of him and whether I think he broke the law or not, I'm going to vote for him if there's the nominee. There is still that pull among Republicans that, look, I may think Trump's a criminal and all of these things, but I'm going to get the Supreme Court I want. I'm going to get the rulings on abortion and other issues that I want. And for them, that's enough of a deal.
At what cost, though? I was watching a CNN piece where they were talking to voters in Iowa who were changing their minds about who they supported. And this one woman said she still supports Trump. And they asked her, what's the most important issue to you? And she said, the U.S. Constitution. What?
Right. Even though they have no idea what it says. And
if that's the most important thing to you, why would you vote for someone who, pardon the expression, shat all over it? I mean, why would you? How could that even be possible? If that's what you say that is the most important thing, I don't understand. I don't understand these people who say they're patriots and don't really understand what America is.
They have no idea what the Constitution says. Look, most Americans have never read the Constitution. They have no idea. I have people who call me, friends who call me, and this is not a liberal or conservative thing, and they say, my First Amendment rights were destroyed by Facebook because they put me in Facebook jail. I said, Facebook is not the government. It's a private industry. You have no right of free speech on
That's right.
Facebook any more than you have a legal right if you're working at Burger King to stand up and go, I think In-N-Out makes better burgers
Right.
and not get fired.
Yeah.
You don't have a right of free speech on YouTube, which Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just found out, or on Facebook or these things. But people talk about the Constitution and they have no understanding what it is or what it says and what it doesn't say.
It's crazy. You mentioned Chris Christie, and he did raise his hand at the debate when asked, would you support Trump if he's the nominee? Then later he backtracked.
He said he was just, finger wagging, which sounds like Chris.
He appeared on, I think it was CNN, and he was talking about his favorite moment that he had at the debate. And it was the moment apparently where he got booed. So let's take a look at this one.
In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
No, it is very true.
That's not
It's
true.
very true. I read it, and I know.
Look, bad behavior and illegal behavior, Chris. And you as a prosecutor should know better.
Yeah, you know what? I know a lot better.
There's a difference between bad behavior.
And I know a lot better than you two. You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight.
So that was former New Jersey governor, now Republican presidential hopeful Chris Christie going after tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy during the debate last night. But Vivek was not the only candidate Christie took on. Here you go.
Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay?
Okay, hear the boos, right?
Yep.
So it's the boos, he says, were his favorite moment in this whole thing. That's what he said, because he said he wasn't talking to the people in the audience. He said he was talking to the people at home.
Yeah.
All the people that he could get to. And so that's why he said those were some of his favorite moments in the debate, the moments where he got booed. It's an interesting concept. And I think I've heard it said the only reason he's running is to be that voice against Trump.
I think Chris needs the spotlight. I don't think it's so noble as I want to be the voice against Trump. I think Chris, since he hasn't been governor of New Jersey, has missed the spotlight. The same reason how Giuliani ended up doing the opposite, tying himself to Donald Trump. Giuliani, who I got to know fairly well until he completely cut me off after one joke, very thin-skinned. The joke wasn't even about him, but he needs to be in the spotlight, and he really came apart when his bid for the presidency fell apart. He wanted to be either the senator from the state of New York or, the presidential nominee, and he just kind of came unglued because he realized mayor was it for him.
Yeah.
And this was not Giuliani's plan, and so he felt that the best thing he could do was, hitch on to Trump's wagon to kind of stay somebody who meant something. And I think that's mainly what Chris is doing. I don't think there's anything incredibly noble going on with here, having covered him for years.
You know what else is not noble is the way that Republicans are going after Fani Willis. There's a story I was reading that the House Judiciary Committee has opened this investigation, a congressional investigation, into Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, who, leveled this indictment against Trump. She, they sent a letter to her asking whether she communicated or coordinated with the Justice Department. I know it's all political. It's all kind of grandstanding, and it's I don't know, damage control. Like, let's turn around and blame her as fast as we can. Let's see if there's something wrong. If we just open an investigation, then we can make it look like, they're all in cahoots together. But I'm so disappointed.
But really? Still?
Yeah, I know. It's like, can't you learn by now? Like, aren't you, doesn't it just, but every time something like this happens, it seems like justice is being served. We got the mugshot, things are going well. American system of justice is plodding right along. And then we get this.
Look, there's two things going on here. One is obvious. It's like, well, we can demonize her easily. She's a Democrat and she's a woman. Ta-da! And
of
also,
color.
she's
a woman of color.
Yes. Yeah. and a woman of color. And so it's a perfect trifecta for many Republicans. It's also beyond that. It's what they would do. I mean, it's what they would do if in power. It's kind of like, well, of course, this woman must be attacking Trump merely for political reasons, because that's what we do. We attack people mainly for just political reasons with no evidence. So it's perfectly believable that the other side would do it, even though Democrats have, what was Will Rogers' old joke? I don't belong to any organized political party. I'm a Democrat. That still holds true 100 years later.
Totally. How sad is that? If it's, just to stir up the trouble for her, when this is a woman who does everything by the book. When Trump came out saying the most awful things, she told her whole staff, you don't respond. We respond in court. She's professional. She's doing everything that she can to make this case and not sink down to the Trump gutter where he's flinging the mud all around. And I think just launching a congressional investigation to make her look bad is a giant load of crap, Gil.
It is a giant load of crap, but that's what they're doing. Look, they don't have much of a case. I mean, even Trump's previous lawyers like Ty Cobb have said, this is a pretty open and shut case. Bill Barr has said, it's a pretty open and shut case. The evidence is there. It's overwhelming. And now they seem to be scoring more people are going to testify, even Mark Meadows, which I think even a lot of people on both sides are surprised by. There's a lot of people who are realizing, hey, he's not going to pay my attorney fees. He can pardon himself. He can get on a plane and live in Saudi Arabia in money and splendor the rest of his life. I can't. I'd be going to prison. And I think some of those people are beginning to back off. It's so there's something of a dawning there. But again, this is something that the Republicans have decided to do. I mean, the Hunter Biden thing is clear on that. First of all, is Hunter Biden slimy? Absolutely. I mean, Hunter Biden is a slime ball. In the tradition of Neil Bush, Nixon's brothers who got money, it was supposed to be campaign money from Bibi Rebozo sent to them, to Roger Clinton, to Billy Carter. There is unfortunately a great American tradition that's not so great of presidential relatives trying to live off of the president. And also, let's face it, even though there is zero evidence that Biden himself actually took any money or was a part of anything, he did get on by speakerphone some of those calls to just show that, I'm Hunter Biden's dad and we have a relationship. And that was monumentally stupid. Not illegal, but it was monumentally stupid. You never had Jimmy Carter getting on with the Libyans while Billy Carter was talking to him and saying, I drink Billy beer and Billy's a great brother. So that was stupid and led to that. But when you look at, going back to something I mentioned previously, the difference between what Hunter Biden did and the money he got, and which again, I think is ethically completely slimy, and what the Trump sons and Jared Kushner, who actually had a White House job, did, where we're talking about billions, while he was working on actual policy matters with those countries, with the Abraham Accords and things like that. It's like there's no comparison here. But the Republicans are good at that. And let's face it, Democrats aren't.
No, I look at the whole Hunter Biden thing as insignificant. I don't think it has anything to do really with presidential politics. And when Hunter Biden's name is mentioned, it always feels, it smacks to me as this whole whataboutism. You're taking the focus off of these hideous alleged crimes and you're putting it on this, this drug addict who didn't pay his taxes and has now already paid. I mean, I just there's no comparison. And I don't even want, I don't even want to go there.
There isn't, but if you're throwing red meat at the crowd, look, the question here is, will that, the only thing that matters at this point is the 2024 election, is the actual outcome of the 2024 election. If Trump gets convicted, and again, Georgia is excluded because he can't pardon himself for Georgia claims. But for the most part, if he gets elected, he's going to pardon himself and probably most of his friends. So the election becomes the thing. They're not even really, other than saying vaguely, oh, these charges are made up, trumped up, which of course is ironic. And that this is all a put-up job for Democrats. But when you get down to a legal defense, they don't really have anything.
Yeah.
So saying, well, Hunter Biden, sure.
That's all.
Now the question is, does that work? He's almost certainly going to get the nomination. Other than having a massive heart attack, I can't see what could possibly stop him from getting the Republican nomination. So the question then becomes, can he win? That's interesting because remember, Biden wins by 7 million votes, but that doesn't matter. We're talking electoral college, and the electoral college, a swing of 44,000 votes in the swing states, and you have a different outcome to that election.
Yep.
So 7 million versus 44,000, you can see how much of a problem this could be. And even though he's not being talked about much yet, Cornel West, in his quest for the presidency, which again isn't attracting much attention, is getting attention in the Black community. And in recent polls in Arizona and Wisconsin, would throw those states over to Trump. He only gets 4%, but 4% is enough in those close states. Now, again, we're more than a year out from the election, but still, you could have a Nader effect easily there, or what Republicans would consider the Ross Perot effect that got Clinton in.
That's really scary to me.
So the Democrats don't have, even though there's far more people that say, I'm going to go Biden than Trump, in terms of the Electoral College, this thing's completely up in the air right now. And that's what people have to focus on. That's what Democratic Party and the Republican Party is already focused. But what Democrats are going to have to focus on, making sure they get the turnout they want, especially from voters who think that Biden is like, meh, president, or worse, got in because certain communities, including the African-American community, gave him their full-throated support, and they're looking back and say, what have we really gotten for that? What kind of support for our issues have we really gotten for that? And that's a real danger to the Democratic Party. And Trump is by no means out of this. And can he be president and be in prison if he's sentenced in Georgia? Absolutely. We've had people in prison run for president before. They haven't been major candidates. Lyndon LaRouche.
That's a great look for America. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Eugene B. Debs. Very different people, very different political things, but they ran for president from prison. So is it a good look for America? Is Vladimir Putin a good look for Russia? No, but is he holding all the cards? Yes, I think that was probably the last thoughts of the head of the Wagner Group this week.
I'm pulling out my Gil Gross crystal ball. And if you had to say, what do you think is going to happen with all of these indictments, and what do you think happens with the election? What are your predictions?
Prediction. The indictments are the indictments. In terms of conviction, you're going to have to get 12 people in a very divided country to agree. Is that possible? Yes, because we're in a country where only about half the people vote. People go crazy thinking that, well, everybody's watching cable news, so everybody has opinions about everything. Cable news is viewed by less than 3% of the American people. Its influence is way overstated. And for things like Fox and MSNBC, you're not talking about any swing voters there at all. Yeah. I mean, there are people who are decided, I'm going to vote, on the left no matter what, I'm going to vote on the right no matter what. In terms of convictions, so getting a unanimous jury could be tough. And then what you do about prison, I don't know. How do you can't put him in with the general prison population. It would have to be a kind of form of solitary without the punishing solitary confinement.
Do you remember the Jeffrey Epstein, when he was convicted and he was put in this little special kind of luxury hut? And I think he was in Florida. It was like a special house that was built on prison grounds where guards came in. It was a very cushy assignment. And it was like a house on the prison grounds that he got to be. That's what I envision them doing for Trump.
They might, but then the question is, financially, Are they going to want to do that? Will a Republican governor of Georgia and a Republican legislature in Georgia vote for the funds for a cushy place for Donald Trump if, again, he is convicted and if, again, he is sentenced to actual prison time? And if, again, sentenced to prison time if he stays in the country. So I think we've got a lot of things that are doubtful here. But if they do, would you be able to get the funds to make it easier to imprison him? Yeah, I'm not thinking that's a happening thing.
No, you don't think it's going to work out that way? You think he gets elected president?
What's that?
Do you think he gets elected president?
It's going to be very close.
You're freaking me out, my friend.
As I said, you've got two swing states that already have been thrown into turmoil. And again, we're more than a year out. This could all collapse. Cornel West could go, oh my God, not Trump. So I'm abandoning this. Thank you for your support. I'm glad I got to bring these issues up. I'm glad I got enough poll numbers to be included in a debate and bring up issues that I care about. But now I'm going to back off. Please vote for Joe Biden. That's one possible story. Another thing is that he really fights for it the way Nader did, the way Ross Perot did, and helps throw an election. It's right now, the numbers are very, very tight. Again, more than a year out, but the numbers are very, very tight.
Gil Gross, I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude that you came on the show. You and coming up, Chris Merrill, you guys get paid for this, and here you come on for free with me and
wait, this is free?
And talk about. Oh yeah, this is a free one. It's a freebie. You just threw down a freebie this morning. So thank you for that. Thank you for spending your time with me. I miss you in the KGO newsroom.
I miss you
wandering around. Yeah.
1 second. I just have to tell Rhoda about the free thing. Honey, were you at home tonight? Okay.
My apologies. Tell her I'll make it up to her in some way.
Yeah, that's okay.
Gil Gross, thank you very much. And you have a special coming up on CBS?
Yeah, Labor Day special that will be heard on many stations and will be available on the internet if you go to the CBS News Radio podcasts. That will be there. And then,
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will call on you again next time. Thank you for your thoughts today.
Always good to see you, Kim.
Bye, Gil.
Bye-bye.
Gil Gross, everybody, formerly with KGO. You've heard him do news. You've heard him fill in for Paul Harvey. You've heard him on talk shows. You've heard him on CBS doing specials. You've seen him on stage doing Shakespeare. And I'm just grateful that he would be with us today. I do want to thank Harry for a $5 super sticker. Happy Mugshot Day. Thank you, Harry, for starting us off with a super sticker. Nikki and I really appreciate it. Okay, this day I have filled with the best people. Another freebie. Does he know it's going to be free? It is Chris Merrill. You've heard him on KGO and radio stations across the country. Chris Merrill, thank you for joining us. I cannot hear you. Oh, there you are. Okay. Right. Hi.
Yeah. Hey, well, listen, following Gil Gross is really something, and I appreciate that you're still leaving, the label for Gil on there. Maybe.
I'm sorry. I'm
the worst. Leave it there. This is great. This is
no. Yeah. I'm gonna give you your own label. How's that? I'll do it. What have you been up to since KGO went away?
Listen, I've been trying to stay out of my wife's hair is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
KGO was a great place. God, I loved doing the work with. I loved being there with you. And of course, the others that were there, John Daly and working with the other people. I miss Karen Reed behind the scenes like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, yeah.
And so many of the others, too, that were, Sherry Yee and everybody else. And, of course, all the on-air talent, you and Nikki and the rest of the gang, Pat and whatnot. So, listen, it's I missed the heck out of that. I thought, well, listen, this is my path. I'm gonna do some work with KGO, and next opportunity there is, I'm gonna be a part of that crew, full time. But it didn't happen.
No.
I think we were all devastated that day that we had to sit around and get the
the note
work out. So
get the manila envelope.
Yeah. Since then, I've been doing a little bit of work in Los Angeles and in Dallas actually too. So
okay.
Have had some fill-in opportunities that have been okay, pretty good, steady, pretty pretty about once a week there in Los Angeles, and then sporadically it could be a week at a time in Dallas. So
Okay.
just doing some work here and there. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this, Chris Merrill, your Bay Area listeners remember you. I have had multiple requests to bring you on the air.
Wow.
Get Chris Merrill on. Get Chris Merrill on. So thank you for doing this. You're so nice. I know this is a paying job for you. And again, you just pop in with me. And I know you've got, work coming up later. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you know how it is, though, Kim.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's so cliche, but I really love it so much that I would do it for free if I could afford to.
Oh,
really.
Totally.
I just love it. I love it to death, So what I don't care for, though, if I can get into the behind the scenes a little bit, I hate prepping. God, I hate prepping. And I'll spend 6 or 8 hours a day getting ready for a 3-hour show. And those are the most miserable hours of my day, but it's all worthwhile when I get to go on the air, because I love nothing more than being on the air. Really. I mean, it's just the best. And without the preparation, Kim,
can't do it.
Like, you can't do it. I mean, it's kind of like a newscaster who likes being on the air, but hates writing the newscast. It's like, well, you have to write the newscast. You have to. It's what it is. So I hate pouring through all of the different news stories, and I try to absorb as much as I can. But at some point, your brain just goes, "That's enough. We can't do it." Yeah.
That's it. Let's
So
get into the news then. I will give you the opportunity, since we're calling it Mugshot Day. Do you want to comment on the mugshot? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. No, listen, I'm shocked. Honestly,
now I have to take your banner off because that's not you. No.
No, I thought he was going to smile. I did. And I know that this is supposed to be a look out, USOBs, I'm coming to get you look, which I think, listen, this was discussed behind scenes. Like, they were saying, okay, how are we going to take this mugshot? Are we going with a smile? Are we going with a frown? Are we going with a straight face? Are we going to go with a scowl? They chose the scowl, and it's sort of I think in their minds a warning shot across the bow for anybody that says, if you come after me, look out. I mean, that's the death stare. That's the stare that he gives to the kids when they come home without making him another couple $1 million that day. And so he's ready to go at somebody. I thought he was going to smile. And the reason I thought he was going to smile is I thought the smile would be even more defiant. And I thought that as he said he was proudly being arrested and he's never going to surrender while he surrenders, I thought that the smile would be more marketable. And also remember, this is going to be in history books for the next couple hundred years, regardless of what happens, whether he wins the next election or loses it. Regardless, this is history now. So this goes in the history books, and that mugshot follows his legacy, not just follows him around, follows his legacy around for 100 years or more. So I really thought he was going to smile. I put odds at 60-40 on that yesterday. I was doing a bit, kind of a bit on it. And I thought 60-40 he was going to smile. My news guy thought 75-25 he was going to smile. Yeah. But I thought we were going to get that big Cheshire grin out of him, but we didn't.
No, we didn't. We did have some smiles, though. Jenna Ellis gave us a little grin. The guy bottom right, I think he's a Coffee County GOP muckety muck. He gave us a little smile. And when you smile in these things, it's almost like saying, I don't care. Like, this is just a regular day at the photo booth for me.
Yeah. The ones, can you bring that back up? Do you have that? Can you do it real quick? The fellow there next to Jenna Ellis, I thought he had the right mugshot look. John Eastman, you'll see he's on the top row there, all the way over next to Sidney Powell. He looks like a weird deer in the headlights, but the dude in the middle, I don't even know who that is. Holy cow, don't ever approach his ice cream truck because you're not coming home that night. What is that look? That was not well thought out.
He's a lawyer for the Trump campaign in Georgia, I believe.
Okay, well, he looks like he was on Epstein Island. So
yeah, he does. He looks like he looks like the real criminal in the group. I don't know. He just
definitely bones in his basement.
Yeah, this one, you're right though. When you say, and I think that's what it is it's the history books. This is what we will be looking at. This is the example, what not to do, who not to be, at least in my mind. So.
Yeah, well, and again, he's got to take that photo not just for today and tomorrow and for the PR over the next year. I mean, again, this is a photo that's going to be around for 100 years. Imagine, Kim, if somebody were to say to you, I'm going to take your picture. It's going to be one of the biggest pictures ever seen in the world for 100 years.
Yeah.
What do you do? And certainly, you don't put on a goofy face or anything like that. I don't think you nothing like that. But I think that is how people are going to relate to you from here on out, period. Right. Forget the golden escalator nonsense. That's the photo now that everybody remembers.
Let me change topics if we could, because we had an incident this week outside of Moscow where Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was the head of the Wagner group, appears to have gone down in a ball of fire as his plane crashed.
Yeah.
And a White House spokesperson said, yeah, we're not really surprised by this.
No.
I mean, I didn't see a plane crash coming. I was thinking maybe poisoning, maybe, they've poisoned underwear, they've given you a shot, they've out the window, right? The plane crash, though, that's I guess maybe not a new one, but not as inventive or creative as I would have thought.
Yeah, but I have to say, he had it coming.
Oh, yeah. You have things going on in your studio.
He should not have at any moment just threatened the great Vladimir Putin. The biggest shock with Prigozhin dying was that it took so long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, after that whole march on Moscow, the minute he said, okay, we're done, that was it for him. I mean, he signed his own death warrant when he stopped the coup. Right. Had he continued the coup, there would have been a chance, right? He could have potentially gone into Moscow, potentially taken over the Kremlin. But he said, okay, well, we're going to back off because I love my country, blah, 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 whatever it was. They go, oh, well, we're going to give you asylum in Belarus. And he signs a deal with the most notorious, crook in history. And he goes, oh, okay. I mean, this would be like Mussolini standing up to Hitler and being like, I trust you, Adolf. You're all right. You know what? We're just going to step aside now. No. I mean, dude, come on. How do you get to be the general of the biggest mercenary group in Europe and you're that dumb? Come on.
Did you see the news today was the Kremlin denying it was involved in the plane crash on Wednesday that killed Prigozhin, calling such speculation an absolute lie?
Of course.
The spokesperson said genetic testing is underway to confirm. Putin saying Prigozhin was a talented man who made serious mistakes. That's the only thing he said after the crash. He made serious mistakes.
Oh, we're really sorry to see him.
Parentheses, and he paid for them with his life. Yeah.
I mean, what was the serious mistake, right? He didn't check his luggage to make sure there weren't grenades in there. I mean, what are these serious mistakes that he made that he's paid for? I mean, this is any time a political adversary of Vladimir Putin dies, it is so obvious. And I think that's part of the plan too, right? Part of the plan for Putin is to say, don't cross me. If you do, you will die. Yeah. And so the people that do, I mean, incredibly brave. Some might say foolish. I think in Prigozhin's case, it was foolish. But I think in the others, they're standing up for freedoms and the rights of the people and that sort of thing. I think that's bold. Prigozhin doesn't die as a martyr, though. He doesn't go down as someone who tried to fight the system for the betterment of the people. He goes down as a guy who was looking out for his own hide. Yeah. And then he dies. But yeah, the part of the plan here is to say, nope, wasn't us.
But everybody knows.
Right. I mean, what we're finding out is it's either that obviously Putin is behind all of these things, or only the clumsiest, most vulnerable people in Russia oppose Putin. Right? Like, man, a lot of people falling out of windows. But come to find out, only Putin deniers or Putin adversaries are susceptible to gravity. I mean, who knew?
All right, I want to throw this story at you. I haven't mentioned it on the air yet, but there was this incident of the soccer kiss, okay?
Yeah.
So, this is Spanish soccer boss Luis Rubiales.
Yeah.
He says this kiss was mutual, that There's fake feminism where people are outraged over this. He says it was just a spur of the moment thing where he grabbed this soccer star, Jennifer Hermoso, who helped the team called La Roja win its first Women's World Cup title on Sunday. He kissed her right on the lips right after she collected her winner's medal. She said after the fact, she didn't like it. She didn't expect it. And so he's come under fire for doing this. And he says, listen, I will not resign from my post over this. This was a spur of the moment thing. I don't know what you people are so upset over. Do you think he has to resign now? And do you think this is fake feminism, or do you think it was just an excited kiss in the moment? We all need to step down, get over it.
Well, I think first of all, we need to acknowledge how hot he is. And that, I think for a lot of people, that's one of those things that's just not being talked about enough. And that is, dude is smoking. Not a lot of people can pull off the bald look like he can, but he does. The other thing is, no, why should he step down? I mean, obviously it takes two to tango. And for some reason she had lips, and
he grabbed her head.
But
I mean, I don't know how she gets away.
Mouth, it wouldn't have happened. So I think we need to take a good hard look at, some of the other side of this story, and that is that she was there, and if she didn't want it, maybe she should have. No. I don't know. To be honest, Kim, I don't know. I mean, if that had happened in the United States, he'd be toast, right?
Yeah.
But I really, to be totally honest, I don't know enough about Europe and European customs to be able to weigh in on that. There are a lot of things that happen in Europe, and I don't mean to. I know I sound like a dumb American, and that's because I am.
Yeah.
I don't know enough to say, wow, that is completely outrageous. If I gave you a high five, we'd say cool. In other countries, they go, how dare you touch a woman? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. To me, it seems wildly inappropriate. It seems like this flies in the face of the Me Too that we've seen over the last 7 years, right? Yeah. And you go, dude, you can't do that. You're toast. You're gone. We'll usher you away into an advisory role somewhere in the Iberian Peninsula, but no longer are you going to be at the forefront. Did you see also the other side of this? The coach grabbed somebody's boobs.
No,
the players. Yeah, it was caught, and it was like they scored the goal, and he turned around and he was sort of pushing people like I'm so excited. Oops, oopsies, oops. Yeah, and at first you thought, okay, well, he's just kind of ushering people back off the sideline, but then he kind of gave a little extra squeeze on there. Yeah, it was weird. Like that to me
was worse.
Right. I mean, that seemed like an obvious sexual assault, above and beyond Europeans kissing each other as friends. And again, I hate to sound ignorant, but I am. So I'm gonna plead ignorance. I just don't know enough to say how big of a cultural violation is that in Spain. In America, it wouldn't fly, and I'd say, it's got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to COVID. It's back. I know you've had
rapid fire, isn't it? Wow. Holy cow. My opinion matters at all.
We're right back into it. Like it's like we never stopped working together. Boom, boom, boom. Here it comes. So I know you've dealt with COVID at your house. I still haven't yet, although I went to a back to school night. My daughter started high school. Went to a back to school night, and I was talking to a mom, and the evening of back to school, it was like 2 days ago. She messaged me and said, I started having sniffles and I tested positive for COVID, and I had just been talking to her. So we'll see if I maintain my non-COVID streak. But now they have the updated COVID booster and the updated vaccine coming in mid-September. There's a couple new variants. People may need to get the booster. Are you done talking about COVID? What are you like? Are you after? I know you've dealt with it. Like what are your COVID feelings? Are you COVID fatigue?
Yeah, a little bit COVID fatigued. I think what really fatigued me more than anything is just the politics of COVID has worn me out. Just brutal, right? I mean, if we want to talk about people getting sick and what you can do to stay safe, and this is what you and I had lots of conversations around this in the throes of COVID, then I think that's an important conversation to have. And I'm fine with evaluating, was it the right idea to shut the schools down? Is it the right idea to quarantine? Were masks effective? I think these are all reasonable conversations to have.
Right.
But when we start talking about there's a new variant, inevitably one of the shows I do right now is a call-in show, and it's a very conservative station. So if I say, there's a mask mandate or they're shutting schools down, and there's one that closed today actually in Texas that was, I think they said 20% of the staff has COVID right now, so they shut the school down.
Oh,
It's a near guarantee the phone will ring and someone will say that this is some conspiracy, that this is being done to divert attention. There'll be conversations that they'll usher around how it's not a big deal, it's only the flu and yada yada. So yeah, I get really fatigued because we can't focus on things like, how bad is this variant? Is this a variant we need to worry about? Is it different than others, and in what ways? This sort of thing.
yeah.
And so I really loved the conversations that we had on KGO when we talked about COVID, because we had Dr. Peter Chin-Hong on, we had Dr. Bob Proctor on, and I thought those were invaluable voices to carry the message of what really is happening. And the thing is too, and you'll notice this, Kim, you know as well as I do, that as we talked with those doctors, as more information came out, their advice changed. And I think that's important. Unfortunately, in the split and tribal political world that we're in right now, and doing talk radio, and this is where it's a little bit tough for us. We're so deep in the forest we can't see the trees, right? I think so many people just want to go to their corners, and then they say, well, that doctor changed what they were saying. Well, they said this before. Now, why are they saying that?
Because we're all learning.
The obvious reason is because we learned something else,
Right.
But that is then suddenly taken as evidence of inexperience, or that the expert is not what they claim, whatever it might be. So, I'm fatigued on the COVID thing, and I kind of blame the politicians for my fatigue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I'll throw another story at you because I just want all your opinions, just one after the other. Have you been following what's going on in Maui?
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they had a snafu with their sirens. The siren system, there was no warning for people to get out.
Of course, yeah.
And we have this in San Francisco, a network of sirens, and it was allowed to kind of go on the back burner. They weren't tested. It kind of, fell into disrepair. Now, after what happened in Maui, the city of San Francisco is moving forward with this plan to upgrade this siren system, which is aging, it's old, it needs to be replaced and perfected again. The mayor announcing yesterday the city plans to prioritize upgrading its outdoor public warning system. The system was shut down in 2019 over concerns that it could be hacked. But because of Maui, this is all back in the news. So I guess, it can't be a bad thing to put the sirens back in, although you would think in 2023 there would be something else that we could do besides sirens. I know in Maui, the phone systems went down, the landlines were down, the cell towers were down. That was really their only warning. Oh, you know what wasn't down? Radio stations.
Yeah,
radio stations weren't down, but I guess that's not cool anymore to have that be your backup plan, right?
No, we're taking them out of the cars now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, what do you think about warning systems? Do you think San Francisco should invest, or do you think we need new technology?
Well, I got to take a look at the cost. I don't know what the cost is, and I think that's an important aspect to making that decision at an administrative level. But look, I grew up in the Midwest. I did a lot of work in the Kansas City area, and I can tell you that those sirens are invaluable at certain times. And there are times, having been on the air when a severe weather event is happening, and then being off the air but listening to the radio when something is coming, which is the nice part. When I was the boss in certain places, I was able to just kind of listen and see how my team was doing. There's an element of seriousness when the sirens go off. Yeah. So you're listening to what's going on, right? You're hearing somebody on the radio and you're saying, the front is here, it's moving this direction, it's at this many miles an hour. Okay, it's headed toward these streets. Maybe you're getting a call that says, wow, it just took my barn out and now it's headed off toward this city, whatever it might be. When you hear the sirens, you go, uh-oh, it's hitting the fan right now.
This is it.
Yeah. Now, I can also tell you that there are times that the sirens can be misleading. And we ran into this. I was in I was in Lawrence, Kansas, which is the home of KU, and it's squeezed between Topeka and Kansas City. And I remember a couple of instances where they had the sirens were supposed to go off when Doppler noted rotation in the air. And if you hear rotation in the air, you think, well, there's a tornado. So we would have a tornado warning, that had been issued by the National Weather Service. And then the sirens would go off when there was rotation in the air. But the rotation in the air didn't necessarily mean that there was a tornado coming down. And so there were times that warning system, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was a false alarm, but I want to say that it almost kind of hurt its own credibility by going off too much. And that only happened a few times, but it did happen enough that when people heard the siren going off, they thought, okay, is this real this time? There's severe weather coming. Is it real this time, or is it a problem? And I understand from an emergency management standpoint, you're always best to err on the side of caution, right? Always. Yeah. I totally understand that. Yeah. But then on the other hand, you have to consider in the communication model, what is the receiver getting? And in this case, if the receiver is receiving information that they don't deem immediately credible, they start to doubt all of the other information, right? So that's the danger when it comes to those things. Maui just screwed up. I mean, they just boned that up. And I'm glad you brought that up, Kim, because it gives me a chance to talk about one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, and that is really crappy power companies. Yeah. I gotta tell you, having been in California for a decade and watching what's going on, not just PG&E, but San Diego Gas and Electric and the others, it's so frustrating to me because they all know. In fact, it happened in Maui too. They knew that there would be another disaster. And the same thing happened. SDG&E had a study. I won't forget this. I've quoted it numerous times. SDG&E had a study a few years ago that said that the probability in the next 10 years of having a devastating wildfire that will cause more than $3 billion of damage was over 50%. So SDG&E went out and they got an insurance policy for $1 billion. Now, if their projections say we're going to do $3 billion in damage, why would you only have $1 billion insurance policy? Well, the answer is because they can charge the ratepayers for the rest of it, and the state will step up for the remainder. I'm continuously frustrated with the power companies not being held responsible. And I think you and I were dogging on Gavin Newsom for a while there too, because his response was, hey, we're going to set up a $21 billion fund to make sure that there's money available when the power companies destroy the next city in California. And we go, okay, well, where's that money coming from? They said, well, the ratepayers will put it in there. So now instead of a fire happening and then they raise our rates to pay for it, they raise our rates to prepay for the next fire.
That's right.
Which blows my mind and it pisses me off.
And it should. And it's 5 insurance companies have so far left California because they're just not going to make money here when that this is wildfire territory and that you're going to have to pay out bigly and you're not going to recoup anything. And so they're gone. And so what does that leave us with? And as more trickle away from California, who's going to insure us? And it's a big worry here, I think. And you see PG&E, they've cut this tree trimming program that they had. They're trying to now put all the power lines underground in the high risk fire zone areas. But the cost of that is definitely coming right from our pocketbooks because they're now trying to institute another increase. So you're right, time and time again.
Well, fortunately, California doesn't have the highest power rates in the entire country. So, you got that going for you.
We do have that going for us.
I can't even. It has been
leaving California
so mismanaged. And the Public Utilities Commission should be drawn out in the street, tarred and feathered, and then faced off. They really should be. And it's abhorrent that we've allowed the bureaucracy and the politicians to post their friends in those positions, and that the lobbyists have an opportunity to do their own thing, to put into place the people who oversee them. It kills me. And here's the other thing, Kim. I've had the luxury of being on in a few different states, right? I've done a decent amount of work in Arizona, both before KGO, and I've done some work since KGO. I've done things in Texas where they've got their own power grid problems. Yeah. It is
big time.
everywhere. Yeah, it is everywhere. The power companies work on a different set of rules, and the idea behind the antitrust exemption for the power companies is, well, we certainly can't have multiple power companies putting in multiple lines all over the place, which makes perfect sense. The idea was that it was supposed to be closely regulated, and that has become a joke. Everywhere I've ever worked, the regulation of the power companies is a total joke. The concern is over the rate of return for investors, far and beyond what it is for the safety of the people, for the service provided by the consumers. And not only that, but let's also consider environmental impacts as well, because that is taken, a page 5 position when it comes to the power companies. And the different things going on with, if you want to put solar on your house, I'm a big fan of put solar on your house, get yourself the battery backup, whether it's a power wall or you've got an alternative, whatever it is. I'm a big fan of that. I love it. But you can't do it without paying the power company to let you not use their power.
Yeah.
And in what other world do you have to pay to not use something? It makes no sense. Although I did go to the fast food place the other day, ordered no tomatoes. They charged me 30 cents to not put tomatoes on my sandwich.
Really?
Yeah.
Outrageous. That is weird.
Outrageous. That's what I thought.
But here in California with the solar panels, they're making it really hard for people. On one hand, they're saying, hey, we need to all have electric cars by a certain year. We need to only sell new electric cars, or only new cars will only be electric, right, by this year. And so we have to have a place to plug them in. We need to probably have solar power to do that, to be green. You're trying to tout green energy, but then you're making it really hard for all of us to actually do what you're telling us we need to do.
Well, right. And I understand the power. Yeah. I understand the power company's position, because they don't care, right? The power company's position is return on investment always. Mm-hmm. That's what they are. So that's where we rely on the CPUC and Gavin Newsom. The buck stops here, right? That's where we rely on them.
We can't rely on them. No, because they're in the pocket of PG&E. They're going to do whatever PG&E wants.
The people should be outraged, and unfortunately, this is a topic that, it's a pet peeve of mine, but I think I'm in the minority. I've talked about this in Los Angeles before, and I got a phone call from the program director going, people don't care.
People do care. People care very much.
Yeah.
It affects our lives. And now we have these power bills that are, outrageously expensive. It's insurmountable sometimes.
Why? Why are the power bills? And if you want to do something about your outrageously expensive power bill, sorry, you're going to have to pay more to do something about it. It's like paying to not put tomatoes on your sandwich. It's ridiculous. It's counterintuitive.
I can't believe that. No. Yeah. Okay, I have one more story to ask you about, and it really kind of goes with PG&E, because people, I guess, are leaving California, and now we're seeing the big money people leaving California. Here's the latest. This is a tech investor. They had a house on Broadway in San Francisco. They just listed it for $32 million. They're leaving California. They bought this house for about $3.5 million. They've done a lot of work preserving it. And now, $32 million. That's what they're selling it for. But they're checking out, and a lot of people are checking out of California. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, because the more people you have coming out, you seem to have more people coming back in. But in your travels, have you met Californians that are disillusioned with our state and have moved? And how are they being received in places like Michigan?
Well, where I am in Michigan, it almost surprises me that there aren't more people from California here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a little bit of a homer right now. And thanks for outing me. I've never talked about where I am, by the way.
Although I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, I actually do broadcast from, it's my hometown. And truth be told, I'm in my mom's basement as we speak. It's great. And the reason for that, if I may qualify that, is that my wife and I bought this wonderful little cottage on this lake just off of Lake Michigan. So you got Lake Michigan, sand dunes, this lake that we're on in our cottage, and it's great.
Yeah.
But it's not super conducive for a studio. And my parents are about 7 miles inland, and they've got a 3,500 square foot house, and the basement is just not being used, and it's insulated and it's great. And so I broadcast from the basement. They've been very kind to allow me to do that. So I'm surprised more people from California aren't coming to Michigan. And
thanks, Chris's mom.
Yeah, right. No, the reason is it's great here. It is. The reason people don't want to be here is the winters, right? Everybody's you hear about the horror stories of the winters and how terrible they are. I grew up here, so my perspective is a little different. I don't think the winters are all that bad. They're long, and you get tired of, okay, I'm tired of it. I don't want to have to shovel again. But it's not like, you hear these horror stories of, oh, you got 8 feet of snow that come in and this kind of stuff. You don't get 8 feet of snow. You might have a good snowstorm where you get 12 inches of snow, which sounds like a lot. But you get out there and you have a snowblower, you've got a shovel, you got boots and gloves, and you just go take care of it, right? It's like, okay, well, it snowed last night. I gotta get the car out. So you go take care of it, A few more accidents and things like that, but it's not as bad as everybody wants to claim it is. But again, that's my perspective.
Right.
As I said, we're so close to Lake Michigan, and we have the most beautiful sunsets. The lake, people that haven't been to the Great Lakes before don't really understand that when you're at the Great Lakes, the difference between standing on the beach at the Great Lakes and standing at Ocean Beach, for instance, is just the smell is a little bit different. And that's because you got salt water versus fresh water.
Right.
And the smell it's wonderful. I don't care which one you're at. It's a big body of water with a wonderful smell, but it's great. It's just a little bit different than the other one, right?
Right.
So, there are often times in the summer this summer especially, which has been really mild for us, it's been glorious. I don't even have air conditioning, which, once you get a few miles in off the coast here in California, you got to have air conditioning, right?
Yeah.
And I love it. I said, this is like the San Diego of the Midwest. It's just great. So if you're in California looking to relocate, let me highly recommend the eastern shoreline of Lake Michigan, which is West Michigan. It's a great alternative. A number of cities. Feel free to hit me up. I'll give you some advice on which cities to move to. But other people, in fact, it's funny. I was on in Dallas earlier this week, and I had a guy call me and he goes, "Hey, man, I used to listen to you in San Diego. It's great to hear you." And I think it's sort of that the defector mentality. So people will talk, if you're in Boise, they'll talk about, oh, you've got all these latte liberals from San Francisco ruining our town. You'll get that from some people. Yeah. But individually speaking, the neighbors are like, oh, I'm glad you finally woke up. Oh, I'm so glad you were able to repent and come to our town now. And it always struck me as funny too. Similar when I was growing up, there would be people that would go to church and they would give their story and they talk about how they found Christ, and they would talk about, I was addicted to drugs and I was stealing my mom's car and I was robbing from my grandmother, and they were talking about all these terrible things, and then I found Jesus, and everybody went, oh, that's wonderful. And then you go, hey, everybody, how do you feel about crime? They're like, oh, criminals should be hung. Every one of them should be strung up. And you go, okay, well, what if they find Jesus? Oh! So it's a similar thing. Texas and California have always had this adversarial relationship. So if you're in Texas and you're in California, oh, you California, you nutbag, you're ruining our country, you're the worst. It's like, well, I'd like to move to Texas, and I think you guys have a lot going on. It's like, well, come on in. welcome to our town. It's a
Chris
little bit.
Merrill, I could talk to you all day long. I adore you. I'm listening to you, and I just remember having so much fun on the radio with you. I miss your voice. I miss your personality.
Miss you.
So grateful that you came on with me today. Will you come back?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I know I don't pay well, but I hope that you'll come back and hang out.
Yeah. Well, let's get you and Nikki to do the show on the road. We'll come here in Michigan. The leaves are going to start changing color late next month.
Ooh,
yeah.
Nice.
You can come to a show from my mom's basement.
We can hang out in the basement. As long as she brings down cookies and lemonade, it's all good to go.
You don't want her cookies. She's terrible.
No.
She's terrible. The only thing she's good for is her basement.
Thank you for coming, and I hope that I can hassle you to come back on in the future, because
I'm so glad we did this.
Just been really great to see you and hear you today.
Yeah, wonderful. Mark Thompson won't let me on, so I'm so glad.
He won't.
No,
I'll talk to him. I might have an in there. We'll see how it goes. Bye,
right.
Chris Merrill.
I love you.
Bye. Chris Merrill, everybody. I'll take his banner off. I'm so bad at doing that. What a show. Gil Gross, Chris Merrill, and now former producer from KGO. She produced Michael Finney, various other shows, and she's a friend. And something I know about her is that she loves books, loves to read. She's always, you have that friend who's always an advocate of librarians, an advocate of libraries, always the one that you go to if you're looking for a good read. It's Lara Starr. Let's bring her on the show. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Kim. So glad to be here.
Hi, welcome aboard. Yeah,
Thank you.
So I have my mom, my sister, and two of my friends. We have formed a book club. So
wonderful.
It's really good. There's champagne at book club and snacks, and it's really fun.
The snacks are a draw. I have been in a book club for more than 20 years with the same core group of people, and people have come and gone, but we have been in this club for more than 20 years since you're a mom, I'm a mom. We judge everything by when our kids were little, is when we started this club, and we have been, and there have been members who have died. There have been parents who have died, and husbands we have just been with each other through everything. And the books reflect our experience, and we reflect our experience in the books. And there are women who are, there's women in the group I'm 54, from a couple years younger than me to 20 years, 30 years older than me. And it is such a wonderful way for people / women to connect and have these stories and these authors who reflect our lives and who we can comment on, and to get everyone's different perspective that they bring to the table from the books, which is so interesting.
So this is off topic a little bit, but you do something that I'm very jealous of, and I'm so impressed by. And it is that you seem to have all these groups of friends that you travel with, that you go to parties with, that you go to concerts with. Like, you're always doing something interesting and fun with these people. And I don't know where these people come from, how you meet them, like, who are these women? But you're always posting these pictures of you having fun with and meeting people. How do you pull this off?
Here's my dirty little secret.
Okay.
My kid grew up and left the house. So this life is available to you, Kim McAllister, but not for another, how old is Julia?
Julia's 14, Jacob's 9.
Okay, 4 or 5 years. So, and thank you for that. It is something I am both grateful for and proud of. Grateful for because, there's, like anything in life, it is circumstance and choice. Yeah. So I'm grateful for it because, this is something that I have, that I enjoy, that I know not everybody does. And you're not the first person to tell me that. I know it's something about me that people notice and that people, admire or want to have, or even if it's not the kind of life they want to live, they recognize that I'm living it and enjoying it. So I'm very grateful for that.
The coolest thing. You posted pictures in Mexico. You're like, I don't know, 20, 30 women and all staying in these really cool homes and having these great dinners and going shopping and on these excursions. And I'm like, why did she not invite me? What is this group? Where's the secret membership card to the Lara Starr group?
I can tell you a little bit more about that, but the other part is, and again, part of, I am both grateful for that and also proud of that, because it's not intentional and is not something I don't do because it's a priority for me. And I'm naturally extroverted. I'm naturally, and the other thing is, you're a little younger than me too, is the truth is the story, and I've said this recently, the story of me in my 50s is the story of my women friendships. And once you are shed of some of the traditional responsibilities that I lived we talked about this the other night, like I invited you to something and you're like, I got kids, what are you talking? I can't do this. And I'm like, I lived that life for a long time. I totally understand. But, my son has grown and flown. I'm not partnered. And what I also learned recently is that coincides with reduction in estrogen, as we enter menopause and perimenopause. And part of the reduction of estrogen is a reduction in your hormonal mandate to take care of other people.
Okay.
And that is like super armchair science. I don't even know if I'm right, but it sounds right.
We're going to take it. Yeah.
Right. And so, you often hear women in their 50s, like, I don't give a F what people think of me, da, 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 which, is not my approach. I care a lot about what people think of me. I don't care what everybody thinks of me. I care what you think of me because I value your opinion. But again, that natural shedding of some of the demands on us, although some of us are still raising kids and some of us have parents we're taking care of, but with coinciding with the changes in your body that sort of, signal different priorities for you. And you're just sort of like over a lot of the pretenses about, oh, I do this, I do that. My son does this, my son does that, da, da, da. Right. And the way I experience women connecting with each other in our 50s is so authentic, so we're done, things get really real really quickly. Yeah. And that is part of that. So the trip to Mexico that Kim's referring to is in February of this year. A group of 20 women friends and I went to San Miguel de Allende, and which I'm evangelical about. Everybody needs to go to San Miguel. It is absolutely beautiful, very easy to get to from the Bay Area, not expensive. And literally there was a secret group. It was called, I was in a Facebook group called What Would Virginia Woolf Do? Which is hilarious for women over 40. And the joke is, what would Virginia Woolf do? She'd put rocks in her pockets and throw herself in the river. We probably shouldn't do that. But what we should do is connect as women at this stage in our lives and talk about our growing kids and talk about our aging parents and talk about our changing bodies and da 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 da. So it's this Facebook group where all those things I talked about really happened in a way that we don't necessarily associate with Facebook, which we think about as like silly and a time suck and doing everything. Genuine emotions were shared, genuine relationships were connected, genuine friendship was support and given in this group. So a subset of that group, we decided, we're all over the country. We should meet up in real life, da, 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 da. And it filtered down to these 20 women, some of whom are friends of mine in real life in the Bay Area. Some I had never met before. So women took this huge leap, literally and geographically, all met up in Mexico. Some of us had never met each other before. We ranged in age from late 40s to early 70s. And my joke is like, we had 20 badass women on this trip. No wigs were pulled, no tables were flipped. Like, we literally created this community. We literally created this sisterhood, and it was magical on every level. I mean, the place was beautiful. The time we had was beautiful. And there are women on, it wasn't very diverse, ethnically or racially. There's a couple of Asian women and an Indian women, but for the most part, I'm a middle-aged, middle-class white lady, and that's who orbits my circle for the most part. But there was a huge range of experience. We all obviously have enough to be able to afford to take this trip, but for some of us, it was like, this is nothing. And some of us, it was a real stretch financially. So there was enough diversity of perspective and experience to make it super interesting. And yeah, you're right. It was magical.
So cool. Okay, I don't want to run out of time before we get to the books, because I asked you to come up with a list of 5 books that you could recommend to people. Yes. I picked, I just finished a book called The Change. And you would think it's about menopause, but it was actually a book. It's a murder mystery. So that was the last. And when I told people about this book, people in the chat here on YouTube started saying, "What was the name of that book? Can you talk about this book? Oh, I love books." So I thought, Lara's got to come on. Mm-hmm. You have some recommendations for us, and the first one is The Weight of Ink. Tell us about it.
Oh my goodness, I love this book. So this is a long book. And so what my book club often does is we don't meet in December because December gets really busy. So we'll pick a big, long book in November and then talk about it in January. So we give ourselves enough time. So The Weight of Ink goes back and forth in 2 different periods of time. It is in present day London and in medieval London. And the setup is there's a woman who is an academic who finds sort of a trove of household papers that were the home used to be the home of a rabbi in the Middle Ages, and and during the time of the what do you call it? The plague.
Mhm.
And
Oh, that thing, yes.
oh, that, yeah. And in so this rabbi's home, he was blind, and so he hired a scribe to write for him, and the scribe was a young woman. And so these papers that the academic finds, sort of kicks off this sort of back and forth, and we are in learning about this scribe and learning about the Jewish community in London at that time, and then this woman in modern times in which she's struggling with, and a romance that didn't happen with an Israeli soldier. And God, I wish I could book talk better. I will get better at this, but it is so rich, so deep, so beautifully written. I was so captivated by this book, and you introduced me as a reader and an advocate of libraries and librarians, which I absolutely am. But I, like a lot of people during the pandemic who are big readers, friends of mine who are authors, really lost their reading mojo during the pandemic, which was kind of a shock because we thought, oh, we have all this time to read. That's all we've ever wanted. And it was very, very hard to do. So this book helped me recover my reading mojo. I relished every minute with this book, and I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend it for book clubs because there is so much to talk about. To talk about.
Weight of Ink. I'm putting it on my list.
Please.
Let's go to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. So this book got a lot of hype, and it was all well earned. So this, it's about video game developers. What do I know or care about video game developers? Nothing. But as I used to tell my son when we would watch movies or read books, like there's what happens in the book and there's what it's about, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens in the book is a group of friends from college form a video game company where they make these very immersive video games, the kind of which I have never played. I know are out there. I know mean a lot to people. I know it's a bigger industry than Hollywood. But I don't know very much about it. On that level, this book made me appreciate the talent and storytelling and world building and artistry of video games in a way I had never really considered before. Like I understood them sort of technically, like how the cinematic they are and but I really had never stopped to think about what they were artistically and narratively. And so that was very interesting to me because it's not something I sort of dismiss, like, oh, video games, like it's not important. Right. It's obviously very important. And so this gave me a very interesting perspective on that. But at the heart, it's about our relationship to work, our relationship to friendship, the characters are so specific and quirky and unusual, and which makes them so relatable, even though there's sort of nothing about them that I'm like, but they are just so beautifully drawn, and their relationships and their backs and forths and their motivations and the way they treat each other are so real. It doesn't follow a typical arc, and I absolutely loved it. And there was something else I wanted to say about it. Oh, the other thing is I grew up in Los Angeles, and there is a lot of the story is set in Los Angeles. And
so it's fun to read about places you grew up and about.
Yeah, the specific places, and B, the mood, the feeling, I get it. The LA that locals and natives understand, that visitors and people, LA is a joke, it's a punchline. I get all that, but it's also a very, very real place when you grow up there, and this book captured that very well.
Let's move on to this one. This is called Hamnet.
Hamnet is was the name of William Shakespeare's son. And so a variation on that, Hamlet, is something we all know. So it's So that's sort of a little, a trivia thing about Shakespeare that a lot of people know, that he wrote the play Hamlet, and Hamnet was his actual son, and his son who died. And so this story is told the imagined life experience and perspective of Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway, about who very, very little is actually known. But it imagines her as a very smart, strong, feeling, intuitive woman in touch with her powers as a healer, an herbal healer, a witch practically, and or somebody who might have been burned at the stake because of her ability to intuit and to heal, and what her life was like as his wife in the house in Stratford with his family, and when she was left alone when he went to go to London to stage his plays, and how he entered her life and her life as a young girl. And it is also, again, deep and rich, and kept me, and the writing is just so lyrical and so beautiful, and you feel her life so deeply, you feel her relationship to her children so deeply. And again, really great book for book clubs. Another one that sort of elevated me from my reading slump.
That sounds really good.
It's so
you're
good.
giving me like you have me reading for the next year is what you're
Yes.
doing. This one's called Good Riddance.
So this is fun. Eleanor Lippman. So this is a much lighter book. So we tend to need to do that in book clubs. Book clubs,
Yeah.
like, Oprah's book club, we joke is like, the depths of like, how miserable can people be? Like, you can't read too many of those in a row, or you will just bum yourself out. So Eleanor Lippman is, I'll call it smart chick lit. I don't dismiss chick lit, just like I don't dismiss candy bars. Like, we can't eat nothing but broccoli, but this is light, but not dumb and not silly. Absolutely. Anything by Eleanor Lippman will fill that need. You know that need. It is a beach read for smart people. So in Good Riddance, a woman finds her mother, her mother was a teacher, and she finds a yearbook with her mom, and from her mom when she was an advisor on the yearbook, and it's got all these notes and weird things written in it, and it sort of sets her off in this adventure to try and like figure her mother out, and figure out what all these notes were, figure out what her real relationship with her students was, like what is going on here. She hooks up with a wacky sort of documentary film, sort of might actually be a documentary film producer, might have just done some like weird stuff on YouTube sometime, and who's interested in like turning this into a documentary. And it is good fun, a good romp, but also has a lot to say about relationships and what we do and don't know about our parents and assumptions we made. And really, really, really great read.
Awesome. Okay, last, and I'm so excited. We're going to get them all in. This one is called Rock, Paper, Scissors. Rochambeau,
okay,
right?
You were talking about murder mysteries. And so I also, in addition to reading, I also listen to audiobooks, usually when I do like a hike or a walk. And so this was one I actually listened to on audio, and this is a thriller. So when I'm walking or hiking or have a long car trip, I like a thriller or a mystery because it keeps me going, right? I want to find out who done it. It's a page turner. So it's kind of the walking version of a page turner.
Right.
And so Rock, Paper, Scissors is is about a couple who are sort of like you're sort of deconstructing their relationship in a series of journal entries. And he is a writer, and he wrote this story that became really popular and became a movie, but then he sort of is like on the down low, and his career isn't going very well, and she's trying to fix their relationship, and it's not happening. And it is absolutely engrossing. It goes places you never think it's going to go. Rock, Paper, Scissors is the name of the book he writes, and it is absolutely fascinating. So if you're looking for just an immersive, page-turning thriller, where are these people going? Who are these people? Where, this is the book for you. And I've read a couple other by Alice Feeney since then, and they're all right there. It says on the book, New York Times bestseller, not for nothing.
Awesome. Lara Starr, thank you for all the book recommendations. Again, we'll go over it. It is The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish. You have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. You have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. You have Good Riddance by Eleanor Lipman and Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Good recommendations. Thank you so much. And I have to thank you for coming on last minute to chat with me. What a pleasure to get to hang out with you for a few minutes here on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. And you got to ditch those kids and hang out with me in real life too at some point.
I'm going to do it. But I hope you'll come back on with us. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, Lara.
Bye.
I hope you guys will read one of those books, and if you do, let me know, and I will make sure and forward your comments to Lara so she can know how she affected people and that she made some good recommendations here today. Okay, we are moving it right along on the Nikki Medoro Show. This is a big show, lots of guests today. Before we move on, I do want to thank some people. We have Harry, who started us off with a $5 super sticker. Harry, you so totally rock. Celeste, bringing it in. Thank you for bringing Gil and Chris back for a visit. Missed them both. Me too. So good to see them both today. And thank you, Celeste, for the $20 super sticker. Spencer Jaffe with $5. Spencer, you're so awesome. Thank you very much. And again, Celeste, Gil and Chris, what a great morning. Thank you. Thank you for the $40 today, Celeste. That's really kind of you. And thanks everyone for being here and participating in the conversation. Up next here on the show, I do want to get to our Friday regular, Tim Sika, with movie reviews, because this week there's a sale at the movie theater, and Tim Sika's got a lot of movies to talk about. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. I want to jump right into it because you've got like the list.
I know we've got who knows if we're going to have time to talk about all of them. We're going from books, which is, high art, to movies, which are anyway something else entirely. But anyway, lots of movies to talk about this week.
And there's a sale at the movie theater. I guess it's what, $4 tickets on Sunday?
So I'm told, yeah. I hardly pay attention to that stuff because, I don't have to pay to
get
see
it for
my
free.
movies.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So, a friend of mine told me that yesterday that there was a $4 deal where you can go see these first run movies for next to nothing, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool too, but I think that also means it's going to be jam-packed at the movie theater.
Probably, yeah. Get your seats now, get your tickets now.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about this one. It's called Retribution.
Another Liam Neeson action thriller. God, there was The Commuter and Honest Thief and The Marksman and The Ice Road and Blacklight and Memory and probably others I can't even think about right now. But this is the latest Liam Neeson action thriller movie. The guy's amazing. I mean, he's just amazing. And he's really great in this action thriller, which is an American remake of the 2015 Spanish film El Desconocido. And in Retribution, I should say what it's about. Liam Neeson plays a financier, sort of like a hedge fund manager, I think a financier, who on his way to taking his kids to school, the three of them, dad's driving, son and daughter, they're all in the family car together on their way to school. All of a sudden, out of the blue, Liam Neeson hears this unknown and unseen voice that tells him there's a bomb planted in the car that will be detonated if any of them try to get out of the car, and that the bomb will also go off if Neeson doesn't do exactly what he's told.
So it's like a voice that comes from the car speaker or his Bluetooth or his head? What?
Yeah, well, I should say it turns out to be a cell phone.
Okay.
That was just planted in one of the compartments, which he discovers. Anyway, so it's a kind of suspense, tension-filled nail biter of a thriller.
Okay.
Most of which takes place in this car, and that's the premise. and there are all these like subplots, you know, family dynamics playing out, that kind of thing, a guy being framed. This reminded me a little bit of that Hitchcock movie, The Wrong Man, in that it's about this innocent guy being framed for something he knows nothing about. And it's a pretty decent thriller. The script's not always on the mark. The movie starts out really strong, and then it becomes wildly contrived as it progresses. But Neeson is great. I mean, he's stellar as always. The supporting cast is very good. So if you're in the mood for a tight 90-minute action thriller, you could do worse. and you know, it's funny. Retribution poses the question in the riddle, which I'll leave you with today about this movie. If Cinderella's slipper fit so perfectly, why did it fall off?
Interesting. Okay. Sometimes, and I don't know if you would qualify this as that, but there's sometimes when kind of a bit of a bubble gummy Liam Neeson flick is just what a Friday night calls for.
Yeah, really. This is fun in the theater. I saw it in the theater, but it would also be fun at home as well, because it's a tightly enclosed, let's say, drama. It's mostly just in the car, but it moves really, really well. I mean, it's very cinematic. So.
Well, Keanu Reeves was on a bus, so you got Liam Neeson in a car.
There you go. Right.
It all works out.
That's right. It all works out in the end. Yeah.
Let's talk about Golda. This doesn't look like brain bubble gum. I'm just going to hazard a guess.
Yeah. Golda, as in Golda Meir, Prime Minister of Israel from 1969 to 1974. It stars Helen Mirren in the title role. And this is not so much of a biopic as it is a dramatization of an episode out of Golda Meir's life when she was serving as prime minister. And that's the 19-day Yom Kippur War, where in October of 1973, a coalition of Arab states led by Egypt and Syria attacked the state of Israel. In other words, it's actually more of a drama about military strategy as executed by the Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir leading the Israelis than it is an actual biopic. But anyway, Helen Mirren plays Golda Meir, and she's Helen Mirren. Come on,
incredible.
I mean, I don't think I have ever seen that woman give anything less than an excellent performance. She's great as always. She chain smokes her way throughout the entire film. I doubt that was faked. It looked pretty real.
Really?
I mean, you just want to. You know, you want to get away from the smoke after a while. But anyway, and Meir died of lymphatic cancer. But the movie focuses mostly on Golda Meir's inner anguish and turmoil and having to lead her country through this terrible war, all the while having to balance politics with practicality. And I like the film. It's getting kind of mixed reviews. I think it was a solid and absorbing drama. Much of it takes place we're saying the Retribution takes place mostly in the car. Most of this takes place in war rooms, which was an interesting choice and different for a story about a historical figure. There are also the occasional like stylized flashbacks of Meir unable to sleep, you know, receiving radiation treatments for her cancer. What else? Liev Schreiber plays Henry Kissinger, and he was really terrific. The supporting cast is excellent. I think it's a good drama that maybe falls a bit short of being a great one, but worth seeing nevertheless, if nothing else, from an historical perspective and for Helen Mirren's performance. I mean,
you think she's going to get an Oscar for this one? An
Oscar nomination? Yeah. Quite probably. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if she'll win the award, but I think she's stands in good stead to nab a nomination. Yeah.
Golda. Okay. All right. Let's move to Is it Scrapper?
Scrapper. Yeah. Scrapper. Yeah. It describes the young girl of the title, the 12-year-old girl. This is a kind of a father-daughter comedy drama.
Okay.
And to my way of thinking, it's sort of like the perfect family movie. The premise of Scrapper is it's nothing new. The cliche is worn out and tired and potentially eye-rolling, which is an absent parent trying to reconnect with his child after deserting her years ago. Harris Dickinson plays, he's on the right there. I think he's on the right. Yeah, with his hand outstretched. He plays the father of this 12-year-old girl, superbly played by newcomer Lola Campbell. I'm going to watch this actress and see how her career progresses, because if she's anything at all like what she does in here, she's going to have an amazing career. But anyway, her mother, the young girl's mother, dies, and who then, by necessity, this guy, played by Harris Dickinson, her father, re-enters the girl's life with the intention of being the father to her that he never was. And this is another movie about grief. Boy, I'm seeing so many movies about grief this year, which seems it's a very common thread in movies
crying
today.
in your popcorn.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
no.
And this one's about a little girl's struggle to come to terms with the death of her mother, and at the same time learning to trust an unreliable parent who just pops up out of nowhere. So it's the story about how a young errant father and an intelligent, independent, and resourceful daughter come to trust each other. They actually begin to bond over a joint attempt to steal a bike, which is thwarted by the police. It's a very funny scene. And the little girl, in fact, is a bicycle thief, which is her sole means of income during the time she lives alone after the death of her mother and before her absent for many years dad shows up. Normally, Kim, this kind of movie would be or could be eye-rolling, but not here. This is a movie that understands sentiment and avoids all potential sentimentality, going instead for the truth of its setup. It's a British film. The accents are thick. The local color of East London is beautifully evoked. I would call Scrapper an astringent, but also at the same time a very, very sweet love story about a young dad and his young daughter. And I loved it. A note here, it premiered at this year's Sundance Film Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize for World Cinema Dramatic Competition. And like I said, nothing new here per se, but quite movingly and refreshingly presented. It's a wonderful family film.
And you say, good for families. So I'm always looking for that.
Yeah. Beware of the accents. You have to really pay attention. They're very thick.
You need the words on the bottom of the screen. I would.
Or wait till I was going to say wait till it comes to streaming, and then you can watch it closed caption. Then you won't miss a thing.
Yeah.
Let's
move to Fremont.
Yes, this is another good one. Fremont that's as in Fremont, California, which is where our protagonist, this young Afghan woman who previously worked as a translator for U.S. troops during the Afghan war, has since moved. So this is an immigration story of a displaced Afghan woman trying to make a go of it in a strange land, America, Fremont, California, who works as a fortune cookie writer in San Francisco.
What a job.
I know, right? And it's a movie that juggles lightness and darkness with incredible virtuosity and skill. I guess I would describe the tone as kind of wacky and offbeat, but the content is dead serious. And our main character, she's a 23-year-old Afghan woman, excellently portrayed here by first-timer Anita Walizada. She works at a fortune cookie in San Francisco, but she has to go see a therapist for prescription sleeping pills because she can't sleep, because she's so in her head about what she had experienced before she came to this country. She's still trying to process all of that and at the same time, make a life for herself here in America, Fremont, California. And this is it's a dark movie, but it's a very funny one. You're almost unsure whether you should laugh. Mm-hmm. But the director of the film in interviews, Babak Jalali, he stated in interviews that it's okay to laugh, but you're still, at least I was reticent to laugh because this is it's a strong story about displacement and loneliness and trauma and guilt over having left her family there, when the American troops were evacuating. And it's a story about the immigrant experience and a character study of an Afghan immigrant wrestling with identity and isolation. So, it's an exceptional film on a number of levels. Technically, the craft is impeccable. The tone is, as I said, a remarkable blend and balance of light and darkness. It's also kind of monotonous in its pacing and yet compelling and strangely riveting at the same time. The mundane day-to-day existence of this woman is illustrated here in such a way that we discover the humor and the wisdom and the depth in that mundane life of hers. It's a remarkable film. It's in black and white. It was all shot in the Bay Area. And I never knew, Kim, I don't know if you knew this, that Fremont is the home of many Afghan refugees. In fact, there are so many Afghan immigrants in Fremont that there's a section of Fremont known as Little Kabul. I never knew that. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of reporters would get sent when the United States went to war with Afghanistan.
Okay.
We would get sent there to interview people like, how do you feel? Do you have family there? What's going on? So I did know that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wonder in this movie how Fremont comes off looking. Does Fremont come off looking like a place that someone would want to live? Or does it come off looking like just this crazy, because of her experience, coming there would be so different. So is it portrayed like this wacky place? Or, how does Fremont come off?
I think Fremont is sort of in the background. I don't think it comes across one way or the other. It's just sort of the backdrop. The focus is on what this woman is going through and what her perspective is, and just trying to make a life for herself. Yeah, that's a really good question. Fremont, I would say, not criticizing it, comes across is a background. It's kind of indifferent or ambivalent. You would not necessarily want to move there, but you might want to move there. That's an interesting question. Yeah.
All right. I was thinking it would be one of the stars of the movie, The City, but I guess not.
Yeah. Well, it's there and it's referred to, and I'm sure, and it was shot there as well. It was shot there and in San Francisco and in Oakland at, I guess, a real fortune cookie factory.
Cool. I think that job
really
sounds awesome.
Yeah. She does. There's an interesting plot twist where she. Well, I'm not going to say. Anyway. Okay. Watch the movie. Yeah.
Fremont.
It's a good movie. Fremont.
I was hoping when you told me you were going to talk about a movie called The Hill, that it was going to be like a political thriller, but I'm seeing baseball. What do we have here?
Well, it's being advertised as a sports drama, and it kind of is more of a biographical sports drama. Okay. And it's a hard movie to criticize because of what I'm going to say about it, but it tells the story of this guy, never heard of this guy, Ricky Hill, based on his own story. He was also one of the executive producers of this movie, by the way. But Ricky Hill, as portrayed in The Hill, was a young man obsessed with baseball, but he wore braces, a la a young Forrest Gump, and was afflicted with this degenerative spinal disease, but went on through sheer force and determination and faith and belief in the Almighty. The Hill is a faith-based movie in the event you've not inferred. He went on to become a professional baseball player for the Montreal Expos. So it's a very inspirational story, and there's really nothing wrong with this movie. It's got a lush, spiritual music score. It was shot like a Norman Rockwell painting. It was just, let's just say, it was just made for a specific audience, specifically a fundamentalistic Christian audience. It totally and completely caters to people with pre-existing religious beliefs. There were so many Christian allusions uttered and declared in this movie. Everything was a miracle that happened through belief in Jesus. There were so many thank you, Lords, and it's a sign, and I'm doing God's work, and by the power of his hand, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Those kinds of things. Similar religious speechifying.
Cross that movie off my list.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this is your jam, I mean, it will speak to you. Yeah. But there was so much religious speechifying. I mean, so many Christian allusions declared that it's almost as if the screenwriters were trying to convince themselves that all of this were like facts. So what am I saying? I love sports dramas, and despite being a lover of sports dramas, the fundamental religiosity of this movie, to me, so overwhelmed the sports aspect and the story of this guy, Ricky Hill, who was really an amazing fellow, that this movie became played more like a Christian recruitment tool rather than a legitimate sports drama. So if that's your jam, you got to check it out. Dennis Quaid is actually pretty good in the film. He plays this stern, by the book preacher. He
must be really religious, because I watched. Remember that worst movie I told you? I don't even remember the name of it. It
was that one that was awful. Yeah, that we can't remember the name.
He was in that too, and I watched it because he was in it, and I thought, Dennis Quaid movie, and it was like Holy Roller City. It wasn't even a movie. It was, like you say, a religious recruiting tool.
Yeah, well, I looked him up, and he is an avowed Christian, but he's a kind of a mixed bag. I mean, he's Yeah, and I mean, when I think of Christian, I just automatically think Trump supporter, and I know most Christians are not.
Yeah, I don't know about that,
but I don't know. Well, I don't even know about that. I don't want to assume, but so I kept. If I didn't have a professional or a personal sense of professional responsibility, I would not have seen this movie. But again, I bit the bullet, and I really did have to swallow my gum many times during this movie. Oh Lord,
Ricky O'Bear in the chat writes, "Blah blah religion, blah blah no."
Yeah, I wanted to say The Hill. Oh Lord, yeah, it's that kind of movie, folks. But
we go from godly inspiration to is it evil? Because the movie, the poster looks a little evil.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that poster. I'm not even seeing that poster. That looks great. Perpetrator. In some ways, and surprisingly, I found this movie Perpetrator to be probably the most interesting movie of the week. For me, it was, because there were a lot of ideas in this movie. And I said surprisingly because this is essentially a genre horror picture, but it's also a genre horror picture complete with requisite buckets of blood. Oh God, this movie is so blood. But it reaches for something without forgetting that it's essentially a genre horror picture. Yeah. It's a feminist picture. I know that might turn some people off. It didn't turn me off. It's an angry picture in the sense of it being a healthy, angry picture. I found so much kicking around in this story that I will barely be able to do it justice here. So I'm recommending it out of the gate, but it's basically about this impulsive teenage girl living in this town where young women keep going missing. I think that's the best way to describe it. And it's so smart, it's so confident, it's inventively stylish, and so intelligent a horror movie, one you can't look away from horror thriller that imprints on your brain. I mean, I saw this movie last week. I'm still thinking about it. And it's a horror thriller that fans of the genre will also most likely love. I mean, you can go to see this movie as a horror movie and not overthink it. I tend to overthink all these movies that I see, but for me, it was like a striking and stylish fever dream, but it had also lots to ruminate over and contemplate and consider underneath the veneer of a horror thriller. So anyway, I don't want to say any more about it. I just thought it was terrific. It's called Perpetrator. It streams on the horror channel Shudder. I thought it was streaming beginning today, but I think it turns out to be September 1st, next Friday. I just noticed I got a note from the publicist, but it's really something else, this movie, Perpetrator. If you like horror movies, and if you like brainy, thoughtful horror movies about more than the horror, you got to check this one out.
So is it a scare you jump in your seat kind of movie, or is it a psychological, you're thinking about it for days because you're so freaked out about the story?
Well, it's both of that.
Okay.
I should also point out Alicia Silverstone is in this movie.
Oh, okay.
She is. Oh man, I don't know what she drank before she's scary as hell.
Oh,
she
gosh.
plays this sort of matriarch great aunt who the young girl, that the impulsive teenager comes to live with her for a series of reasons, and she kind of guides this young girl and just kind of oversees what she's doing and tries to protect her and warns her about all this stuff. And it's worth seeing for Alicia Silverstone. It was great seeing her in such a major role in such a weird movie, being as good as she was. She was fantastic.
Wow.
So I really like this movie, as you can hear from the sound of my voice.
Let's recap it. We have Retribution, Liam Neeson thriller flick, not super smart, but it's all right, right?
It's all right. Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
We have Golda, a great story, likely Oscar contender for Helen Mirren, but didn't quite get to the place you were hoping it would go.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good.
Okay.
I recommend it. Yeah.
Scrapper, you adored this movie, and you say it's great for families.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very good movie.
Fremont, which in the Bay Area, I think we should probably all see, an immigration story, and you said you liked it, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Wonderful movie. Yeah.
The Hill, which is a religious recruiting tool, and as Ricky O'Bear in the chat said, blah, 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 religion, no. Nope. And this one, Perpetrator, it's probably, you make me want to see it, Tim. Even though, like, I don't like scary movies, and I'm not like horror at all, but the story that might reel me in. I don't know. It's definitely a Nikki movie. So you say it's a horror thriller, and you really liked it, and you were thinking about it days and days later.
Yeah. What I like to say, there was lots kicking around in it. Yeah.
You have given us so much on this weekend where there's a sale at the movie theater. So now we know what the good ones are and which ones to avoid, The Hill, and everything else.
Hey, but 5 out of 6 is pretty good. That's a pretty good score. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Tim Sika. I always enjoy talking to you and your thoughtful reviews of movies and always making us think about things.
Oh,
so thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I love talking to you as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'll see you next Friday.
All right, next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye, Tim. Okay, so boy, that was a packed show. I do want to, because I don't want to be late for the Mark Thompson show. I got to scuffle on between one and the other. But I do want to thank some people who have kicked into the Nikki Medoro show. So grateful. Eileen Finn Kopp for a $25 super sticker. Love all the great guests today. I love talking to them too. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Eileen. And thank you for contributing to the show. Marilyn Gunning with a $5 super sticker. You're awesome, Marilyn. Thank you for helping us out. Again, Celeste with two $20 super stickers. Thank you so very much. Spencer for $5, Harry for $5. You guys make me a little misty. I actually might cry. Okay, this is the Nikki Medoro show. If you haven't done it yet, before you head out, thumbs up on the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please click subscribe for us as well. And if you loved any part of it, please share it. Right now, I hope you will join me on The Mark Thompson Show. Another great show full of awesome guests today. It's going to be a good one on this Friday. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show. We'll end it with Jacob. Here he is.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.